Right now, inside every cell in your body, something is quietly failing. Proteins are misfolding. Mitochondria are wearing out. Cellular garbage is piling up in every tissue you own. And most people have no idea this is happening. You've probably heard about autophagy by now. The Nobel Prize, the fasting protocols, the 16-hour windows. Everyone in the health world is obsessed with it. And fasting genuinely works. The research is not in question. But here's what almost nobody is telling you. You do not have to starve yourself to switch this on. There are real foods sitting in ordinary kitchens that do this too. Compounds with peer-reviewed mechanistic evidence behind them. Compounds that activate the exact same pathways fasting does. No hunger, no 16-hour windows, no rearranging your entire day. I'm not talking about a powder from a checkout counter. I'm talking about 5 specific foods. One of them you've probably never heard of. One of them almost everyone on Earth already eats. And one of them, food number 4, has a mechanism so elegant it stopped me in my tracks. Stick around for that one. It's worth the wait. Let's walk through what each food contains, what that compound actually does inside a living cell, and how much of it the research says you actually need. But first, one quick thing worth understanding, because the word autophagy gets thrown around casually now, and that casualness hides how remarkable this system really is. Autophagy comes from the Greek for self-eating. It is your body's built-in cleanup and recycling crew. Every single cell accumulates damage over time, misfolded proteins that can no longer function properly, worn-out organelles limping along, running inefficiently, debris that piles up like clutter in a room nobody has touched in months. Left alone, this damage doesn't just sit there quietly. It interferes with normal cell function. It triggers inflammation. It drives dysfunction. And researchers now link that dysfunction directly to the diseases we fear most: Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. Autophagy is the system that stops this from spiraling. It finds the damaged parts, it wraps them in a structure called an autophagosome. Then it either recycles the useful pieces or destroys what can't be saved. When autophagy runs well, your cells stay clean, damage doesn't accumulate, inflammation stays low. You stay sharp, metabolically healthy, and physically capable. When autophagy runs poorly, and it increasingly does as we age, the opposite happens. The clutter builds, the dysfunction spreads, and the diseases tied to cellular aging start gaining ground. Here's why food can actually influence this, and it isn't wishful thinking. The main molecular brake on autophagy is called mTOR. It's a nutrient-sensing pathway. When food is abundant, mTOR switches autophagy off. Fasting works by removing nutrients entirely, which quiets mTOR. But certain dietary compounds can suppress mTOR through completely separate pathways, independent of whether you've eaten recently at all. That single fact is the mechanism behind everything you're about to hear. Specific compounds, specific molecular targets, documented research, not marketing copy. Let's get into the 5 foods. Food 1, pomegranate. I'm starting here because this compound may be the most researched dietary autophagy activator known to science. It's called urolithin A. You won't find it printed on a pomegranate label. That's because you don't get it directly from the fruit. Your gut bacteria make it for you. Specifically, when certain bacteria metabolize compounds called elagitannins. Elagitannins show up in pomegranates, walnuts, and select berries. On their own, they can't cross the intestinal barrier efficiently, but once specific bacteria process them, the resulting urolithin A can. It enters circulation. It reaches tissue throughout your body. And what it does when it arrives is remarkably specific. Urolithin A is the most potent known activator of mitophagy. That's the subtype of autophagy that targets damaged mitochondria specifically. Not general cleanup, targeted removal of your most dangerous cellular waste. The mechanism runs through something called the PINK1 and Parkin pathway.
This is the detection system for damaged mitochondria. Pink 1 accumulates on mitochondria that have lost their membrane charge. Parkin then gets recruited to tag that mitochondrion for removal. Urolithin A makes this entire detection system more sensitive. More damage gets flagged, more damage gets cleared out. Now here's where the evidence gets genuinely compelling. A randomized controlled trial published in Nature Metabolism in 2022 tested this directly. 66 older adults with age-related muscle weakness took part. The group receiving urolithin A showed measurable improvement in muscle mitochondrial function. This wasn't a survey. Researchers biopsied the actual tissue. A follow-up study in the European Heart Journal found similar improvements, this time in the cardiac cells of heart failure patients. But there's a catch worth knowing. Not everyone's gut can actually make this conversion happen. Estimates suggest only about 30 to 40% of people carry the right bacteria. That means most people eating pomegranate get antioxidants, but miss the urolithin A benefit entirely. The good news is that your gut microbiome isn't fixed. Research suggests it can be trained over time. People who initially can't produce urolithin A often start after 8 to 12 weeks of consistent intake. This isn't a single-dose intervention. It's closer to cultivating a garden. For food sources, whole pomegranate arils beat juice. They deliver both the L-glutanins and the fiber that feeds the right bacteria. Roughly half a cup to a full cup daily is a reasonable target. Walnuts deserve a mention here too. A study in the journal Gut found walnut consumption shifted gut bacteria favorably in just 3 weeks. They also deliver plant-based omega-3 fats and strong antioxidant content. If you prefer juice, choose unsweetened 100% pomegranate juice only. Sweetened versions add sugar that works against the very benefits you're chasing. Food 2. Extra virgin olive oil. This one lands differently once you understand the mechanism. The active compound here is called oleocanthal. If you've ever tasted really good extra virgin olive oil, you know that peppery sting at the back of your throat. That sting is oleocanthal. Specifically, it's binding to the same receptors that ibuprofen binds to. That's not a coincidence. Oleocanthal is structurally similar to ibuprofen. It functions as a natural anti-inflammatory compound through a very similar mechanism. But here's the autophagy connection, and it's more recent and more surprising. Research published in the journal Autophagy found oleocanthal destabilizes lysosomes. In cancer cells, this triggers a form of autophagy-linked cell death. But the more broadly relevant finding involves neurons. Oleocanthal enhances the clearance of tau protein and amyloid beta. Those are the same protein buildups found in Alzheimer's disease. A study in the journal Aging Cell tested this in mice with Alzheimer's pathology. Oleocanthal boosted autophagy markers, reduced amyloid beta, and improved cognitive performance. The mechanism appears to run through beclin-1, a protein essential to building the autophosome. Now here's the critical detail. The word extra virgin matters enormously. Regular, refined olive oil contains almost none of this compound. The refining process strips out the phenolic content entirely. The throat sting disappears, and so does most of the relevant biology.
Even within extra virgin oils, oleocanthal content varies wildly. Fresh, high-quality, early harvest oil can contain far more than older or lower-grade extra virgin oil. The practical signal is simple. The stronger the peppery sting, the more oleocanthal you're getting. Mild, buttery oils carry very little. Sharp, peppery oils carry considerably more. 2 to 4 tablespoons of high-quality extra virgin olive oil daily appears to deliver a meaningful dose. That lines up closely with traditional Mediterranean eating patterns. Use it cold on salads and vegetables to preserve the phenolic content best.
One more thing worth knowing about sourcing. Olive oil fraud is a real and documented problem. A UC Davis study tested extra virgin samples from California supermarkets. A striking majority failed to meet international extra virgin standards, mostly due to oxidation or blending with cheaper oils. Look for a harvest date, not just a best by date. Dark glass or opaque packaging is another good sign. And trust your own throat. Real oleocanthal announces itself. Food 3. Green tea. The specific compound here is called EGCG. It's the most abundant polyphenol found in green tea. A single brewed cup delivers anywhere from 50 to 150 milligrams. EGCG activates autophagy through two separate, well-documented pathways. The first is AMPK activation. The same enzyme exercise and fasting both engage. The second involves direct upregulation of Beclin-1, two different routes leading to the same cellular outcome. But here's what elevates this from interesting to clinically meaningful. Research has found EGCG enhances the clearance of alpha-synuclein. That's the protein that misfolds and aggregates in Parkinson's disease. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences confirmed this effect in animal models. Reduced aggregation, reduced neuron loss. EGCG also supports mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new, healthy mitochondria, so you get cleanup and renewal happening together. Most of the relevant research uses doses between 300 and 600 milligrams daily. That's achievable with roughly 3 to 4 cups of brewed green tea. Matcha delivers considerably more EGCG per serving than steeped tea. Brewing temperature matters more than most people assume. EGCG degrades significantly above roughly 85 degrees Celsius. Let boiling water cool for a couple of minutes before pouring. Milk also binds EGCG and reduces its availability, so skip it here. One detail most people have never heard is worth sharing. Adding a small squeeze of lemon juice dramatically improves EGCG absorption. Research from Purdue University found vitamin C protected EGCG during digestion, in some cases boosting bioavailability by a factor of several times over. A squeeze of citrus in your green tea isn't just flavor, it's a functional upgrade. Black tea, by comparison, contains only a fraction of the EGCG found in green tea. If this specific compound is your goal, green tea or matcha is the better choice. Food 4. This is the one I told you to wait for. Wheat germ. Specifically, the compound it contains at the highest concentration of any common food, spermidine. Spermidine is a polyamine involved in cell growth, protein synthesis, and autophagy regulation. What sets it apart is how it works. It doesn't just flip a signaling switch temporarily. It acts at the epigenetic level. Spermidine inhibits enzymes that would otherwise suppress autophagy gene expression. By blocking those enzymes, it keeps autophagy genes switched on. A landmark study in Nature Cell Biology tested this across yeast, flies, worms, and mice. Spermidine extended lifespan in every single species, and when researchers removed autophagy genes, that lifespan extension disappeared completely. That's a remarkably consistent finding across very different biological systems.
The human data is starting to catch up, too. A study in Nature Medicine followed over 800 people across 20 years. Higher dietary spermidine intake was linked to significantly lower mortality, especially cardiovascular. A separate randomized trial tested spermidine in older adults with cognitive decline. Memory performance improved measurably after 12 months. Here's why this matters as you age specifically. Spermidine levels decline naturally with age, sometimes by 40 to 60%. That decline tracks closely with the broader age-related fall in autophagy function. Replacing it through diet may be one of the most direct interventions available. So where do you find it? Wheat germ leads by a wide margin. Aged cheeses, soybeans, and mushrooms follow, but at noticeably lower concentrations.
A single tablespoon of wheat germ delivers a meaningful daily dose. 3 to 4 tablespoons stirred into yogurt, oatmeal, or a smoothie gets you there easily. Natto, the fermented Japanese soybean dish, is another exceptionally dense source. It has a strong, sticky, pungent character that takes some getting used to. But for those willing, it's one of the richest spermidine foods available anywhere. One storage note. Wheat germ oxidizes quickly once opened. Buy small quantities, refrigerate it, and use it within a few weeks. And if gluten is an issue, mushrooms, aged cheese, and soy products fill the gap instead. Food 5. Coffee. I know, after everything we've covered, the last one is already in your mug. Most people assume the coffee-autophagy connection is just caffeine. That's part of it, but not the main story. The real driver is a compound called chlorogenic acid. A standard cup contains anywhere from 70 to 350 milligrams of it. Chlorogenic acid activates autophagy through AMPK, similar to caffeine, but it also engages a separate pathway involving NRF2, the body's master antioxidant regulator. A study in the journal Autophagy found it reduced fat buildup in liver cells directly. But the most striking research came from a French institute called INSERM. Coffee consumption triggered autophagy simultaneously in liver, muscle, and heart tissue within just 1 to 4 hours of consumption. And this happened whether the coffee was caffeinated or fully decaffed, which confirms the effect isn't primarily about caffeine at all. Population studies back this up at scale. Habitual coffee drinkers show notably lower rates of Parkinson's disease across large studies. A few practical details make a real difference here. Milk binds chlorogenic acid and reduces its availability. Sugar spikes insulin, which reactivates mTOR and works against you. Black coffee, or coffee with minimal additions, delivers the most benefit. Roast level matters more than most people realize. Light roasts retain considerably more chlorogenic acid than dark roasts. The stronger, more bitter taste of dark roast doesn't mean more benefit, often the opposite. Cold brew also extracts noticeably less chlorogenic acid than hot brewing does. 2 to 4 cups of black, light, or medium roast coffee daily appears to be the sweet spot. Beyond that, benefits plateau and other risks can start to emerge for some people. Now here's the piece that ties everything together. Each of these 5 foods works through a genuinely different mechanism. Urolithin A targets mitochondria through the PINK1 and Parkin pathway. Oleocanthal works through Beclin-1 and lysosomal activity. EGCG hits AMPK and Beclin-1 through a separate route. Spermidine works at the epigenetic level entirely. Chlorogenic acid engages AMPK and NRF2 differently still. Different targets, different proteins, different points in the same larger system, which means these compounds don't simply add together, they stack. Think of it like a complex machine with many components. You could check just one part and ignore everything else. Or you could have several systems maintained at once, each by a different specialist. That's what happens when these 5 foods are eaten consistently. It's worth being honest about something before we close. Fasting remains the single most potent autophagy activator we know of. A genuine 20 to 24-hour fast almost certainly outperforms food alone. That research is deep, and I'm not walking it back. But here's the honest framing of what these foods actually offer. First, consistency. Most people won't sustain fasting long term. These foods require no planning and no discomfort at all. Second, they don't cancel fasting out, they compound it. Black coffee during a fasting window can extend the fasted state further. Third, the evidence behind these compounds is real and growing quickly. It's published in serious journals, Nature Metabolism, Nature Medicine, and beyond. So here's the practical version if you want somewhere to start. 2 cups of black coffee in the morning before eating anything. Wheat germs stirred into breakfast, 1 to 3 tablespoons. A serving of high-quality, peppery, extra virgin olive oil on vegetables. Pomegranate arils or walnuts as a snack a few times a week. 2 to 3 cups of green tea across the day, brewed a little cooler than boiling. None of this requires new cooking skills or expensive supplements. It's coffee, olive oil, pomegranate, wheat germ, and green tea. Consumed consistently across months and years, not as a single dramatic gesture. One more connection worth making before we finish. These 5 foods don't operate in isolation from exercise either. Exercise is itself one of the most powerful autophagy activators available. Steady aerobic training activates AMPK through simple energy depletion in muscle. High-intensity intervals engage a separate, hypoxia-sensitive autophagy pathway entirely. Resistance training triggers autophagy as part of ordinary muscle repair. And here's where today's foods connect directly to that process. EGCG from green tea and chlorogenic acid from coffee both activate AMPK. That's the same enzyme exercise activates, just through a different trigger. When you consume these compounds around a workout, you're hitting one pathway from 2 directions at once. Research on EGCG paired with exercise found greater improvements in fat oxidation. Mitochondrial biogenesis increased more than with exercise alone. It appears the compound primes the pathway that exercise then pushes further. Spermidine plays a slightly different role here. Regular intake keeps autophagy genes epigenetically switched on in the background, which means your body's autophagy response to exercise starts from a higher baseline. None of this requires a complicated protocol layered on top of another. Eat these foods consistently, move your body regularly. Understand that both practices are reinforcing the same underlying biology. These foods aren't a workaround for exercise or fasting. They're compatible with both, and in several ways, they make each one work better. Autophagy is real. The biology behind it is genuinely remarkable, and its decline with age is genuinely connected to the diseases we fear most. For a long time, the only lever anyone talked about was hunger. It turns out that was simply the first lever discovered, not the only one. Your body's cleanup system is already built and waiting. These 5 foods are simply the signals it was designed to respond to.